Well, hello, football fans. This is another edition of that I'm starting to work on, and I'm titling each one of my video editions "Remembering Ralls," because Ralls, Texas, is so important in my life. Ralls was where I was raised, and what a blessing and a wonderful time to be a kid living, and an adult as well, but living in a small community like Ralls. But I'm going to try to take us back to the time of school, and because today is December 27th, and we're beginning to get into the football playoffs and eventually the Super Bowl. Well, I'm going to tell you about a Super Bowl that occurred one particular year in Ralls. No, Ralls was playing a little city called Kermit, Texas. Now I'm going to get around to that in just a moment, and that will be in about 1947. Yeah. Okay, I'll go forward now. Well, 1946, I was a freshman in high school and weighed probably 130 pounds and went out for football. And this was just after World War II. So I want you to try to visualize some of the conditions that we played and practiced football, and what it was like. The conditions where, for example, there may be puddles of water in the field that we played on because it wasn't particularly level, but the border around Jackrabbit Park, I believe that park is still the designation for games, but it was different. There were old 1x12 boards linked together that circled around, that made its way around the park. And so people would have to come in, yet there was a little area kind of on the other side, I believe, where some cars would park and to watch the ball games. But here was what it was like back then, because we really had no uniforms right after the war. And whenever you were a little kid, well, they just threw something on you. And I remember running, and my pants with the thigh protectors would just flop, and my shoulder pads would just flop on me. It had no size, and there was certainly no elasticity. And then coaches were preparing us for the season to come, and they was just ahead of us. And so one day seemed like they were reseeding or something out on the park where we would play out on the field. And so in order for us to have a practice, the coach just moved us over to the little field on the east side of there, full of go-heads. Now, you had to be tough to play, and I wasn't very tough, because every time I got down and every time I fell, it seems like I fell into a bunch of goat heads. We call them goat heads, had little stickers on them, and they just stay with your fingers. But we were, the dust was flying, and good lands. I didn't know whether I really wanted to be there or not, because it's just maybe maybe I was in the wrong game. I don't know. But anyhow, that the uniforms, they were all look alike, and we changed. We had it. Sometimes we'd have to change helmets, whether they fit or not, if we were going to be on the line or something like that. And then, uh, and then I remember, gosh, now that during that time, by the way, I'm going to try to show you, if I can, something here. Let's see if I can get this straight, just a little bit. Well, there was Elaine Boyd. She was football queen, and the coach was Mr. Adams. And so let me peep around here on this other side and see if I can get this just right so you can see what some of the team. And now I want to turn the page and briefly show you. This is, you can see those old 1x12 boards that lined the field. And now you'll see some of the players and some of the names and so forth. And I'll try to move this as slow as I can. But this, maybe I can go up a little bit further and you can get some names that way. But anyhow, this is what the 1946 annual looked like. And on that team was Joe Cron, and then there was Billy Bob Wright. He was right guard, and Sonny Strickland, left end, and B.L. Anderson, he was fullback and a co-captain, and Richard Arthur. Now, that's Whizzer Arthur. We call him, Richard Arthur. Whizzer Arthur. I liked him. He's a big old boy. And then there was Bob Cron, who played left tackle. And then Charles Brannon. And they left there a year or two after that. We called him Chick Brannon. And then James Davidson was a big old boy. And his nickname was Lardo. But he was the neatest guy. And then there was Johnny Finner. Boy, Johnny was a tough guy. And his dad had a Finner shoe shop there in Ralls. And then there was Andy Garner, left half, and Odell Heathington. Now that was the main string, main bunch. Andy Garner. The Garners I knew, but anywho, that's kind of kicks it off in the year about 1946, and what football was like. And I really got a lesson in that year, because Clayton Phillips he played a lot on the line, and I was on the opposite side. And Clayton, this was in the days when everything was almost legal, and it didn't matter how you hit anybody. And Clayton would let me through the line, and then he'd turn around and whip kick me on my shins. And I'm not kidding you, Clayton Phillips was tougher than a boot. And he would laugh, and there's big old what we call goose eggs on your shins. And boy, it was kind of tough playing against Clayton Phillips. So that kind of took a lot out of me as far as that goes. But we stayed in there, and we continued to play. And then the next year, after that, well, this is 1947. Now, the last time prior to 1947, I don't know whether that makes a good picture or not, but the last time we played Kermit, Texas, Uh, I've got a couple other annuals, 42 and let's see, 40, 42 and 45. Okay. But we played Kermit in 42. That was the last time that Ralls played Kermit. Until, here it is. Here it all comes. You're going to find out just how tough I really was during this. I was playing what I don't remember whether I was playing guard or what. It didn't really matter. And we were down at Kermit, and those old boys were tough. My gosh, and they just run over you. Well, I was on the B string along with my friend Bobby Taylor, and we were under a kind of an old blanket, it looked like, and we were. And in those days, we drank water out of a quart milk bottle, and then we had some sugary dextrose. And Bobby Taylor and I, we were under that blanket, see, and kind of looking out from under that blanket and eating those dextrose, drinking that water. And about that time, the person I was to substitute for, and I'm not sure if it was Carter Page or Chick Brannon, it doesn't really matter. All I heard was Lynch, Lynch, just like that. And I came out from under that blanket, and the coach is coming right toward me, and I got out of there, and about that time I got in front of him, somebody just threw a helmet on me, and it just almost spun. You know, but here's the deal. Coach looked at me and he says, Lynch, you want to play a little football? And it didn't take me long till I said, Coach, I don't believe I do. And I went back and got under that blanket with Bobby Taylor. Now from then on, my mark and my story had to be told at every class reunion thereafter about Lynch having to turn down his big opportunity to play in a Super Bowl game in Kermit, Texas, 55-0. And those folks would laugh. I like to never put that down. But now I'm repeating the story, so when I'm dead and gone, you can say, boy, there was one old boy that played in a Super Bowl in Kermit, Texas in 1947. I believe that's right. And he was a coward. He got back under the blanket and drank those dextrose to give him some energy. He was shaking so bad. I didn't like that. Well, the next year, I said, I don't believe I want to play football. I played basketball, but I just wanted to tell you about 1947. And Ferris Now was our coach. And let's see. Well, you couldn't tell anything about this because here was the team, what the team looked like. There, you may be able to see some names. But goodness gracious, those are big old boys. I know there's probably something else that I needed to tell you to confess. This is my confession because I probably won't need to think I was always maybe a tough guy and a big football player. I ran and hid under a blanket, drinking water, eating dextrose. So that's my story. Wow, this has been 15 minutes long. I hope you've enjoyed this story. Now that football season, now as you can see, I have Jackrabbit Annual of 1948, and then I graduated from high school in 1949. Now somewhere about 72 years ago, I think that was about it, was whenever we played in Kermit. Well, I hope you got a good laugh.